So what Ethereum is missing is a combination of bringing NFTs back. Like, Vitalik should start buying some NFTs and saying, this is great. Because actually more power to Ethereum means more interesting things they can build. Right. And I think he's acknowledged that, although I don't think he's a fan of it, which is part of the issue. But the second thing is also a little bit of essentially, crypto diplomacy here. Because what Ethereum is different from Bitcoin is it's basically, it's a federal government, right? So Ethereum is the federal government and it has essentially all these states or these, let's call it satellite states, if you will, right? They're Optimism, Arbitrum, basically Base, all those guys here, right? So what they need to do is all come together and say, okay, if you make Ethereum great, you'll all be even greater. How to coordinate? But right now, you have a little bit of this sort of game theory situation where everyone else is essentially getting fees on Ethereum. And then essentially, if you're the one holding on to it, are you the one holding on with the Ethereum bag? Or is it better for you to basically start selling it before someone else does? And then you have the sort of cascading effect. So this requires some coordination, which means that Ethereum also has to evolve itself into a market-oriented, much more capitalist organization, which in a way the Ethereum Foundation has never been.
Yeah.
Right? Now that's changing, and we've seen, we've spoken to a few people there, and that's changing, and that's good. And of course, Joe Lubin with, what he's doing with a sort of essentially a strategy version of Ethereum.
Right. Ethereum Treasury Company.
Exactly, Treasury Company. All these things are evolving and happening. But again, more and more signaling has to come from Ethereum that's essentially capitalist oriented around that and trying to create value for Ethereum. And it's important to note that the superpower of tokenization is expansion of network effects. So when I basically tokenize something, I expand the network, which is the reason why something that appears to have no value suddenly has a lot of value, like a meme coin. Whether it's worth $50, $500, or $5 million.
Peter Thiel took $500,000 and turned it into $1 billion using the exact same techniques we're using inside the investment club. He met a CEO, his name was Zuckerberg. He pitched him the deal and he said, okay, I'll give you $500,000. Mark went public and sold the shares to people like you. Well, what happened to Peter? Well, he exited and got a 2,300x return. The wealthy invest in early stage companies, folks. The public markets are for suckers. It's a rigged game. By the way, this happens in crypto as well. It's called pre-sale tokens. This is Solana. Does anybody know this chain? They sold pre-sale tokens for 4 cents. And you can see the date on there, April 5th, 2018. Look at Solana today, folks. That thing's up over 1,000x. The media and Wall Street and all these hype people get you to buy the top. Meanwhile, they put their clients in at the bottom and they use you for liquidity to make their clients rich. You can play this same game. You just have to have the financial education and the deal flow. That's it.
That's kind of beside the point. It's just indicative of the strength of that network. Now, what I mean by that? What I mean is that the tokenization effort spreads and combines networks such that you can enumerate the value of the network effect in question. Even with a stablecoin, you might say, well, the value of the stablecoin doesn't go up. But the fact that a stablecoin is tokenized and spread to the world means that the dollar has more power. So there's an interesting irony that despite the fact that the Fed essentially has printed trillions and trillions of dollars into the market, right, devaluing it as a store of value, why is it that the dollar is more powerful than ever before, right? And that has to do with the fact that more people are using it, right? And so you have this sort of interesting thing around, okay, you want more influence and more impact? That means you need to have more distribution. But when you have more distribution, you kind of have more inflation, right? So when do you reach that equilibrium is a market's evolution phase. And we're currently so early still. Again, when you talk about sort of 500 million people own crypto, less than 10% are basically doing it on DeFi. There's 8 billion people in the world. We're going to see very, very volatile times still, right? But again, if you're looking for the assets that can outperform Bitcoin, you're going to find it in alts. You're not going to find it in Bitcoin per se, which means that if you want to have a strategy, what I found also is that the reason why Bitcoin is holding itself is that if I've made money in alts, I store it in Bitcoin, right? That wasn't the case before. So to me, that's actually positive because it means that I can now very easily move it from Bitcoin into other areas. So if risk on is back on, then alts are, in my opinion, are going to really, really sort of accelerate because all that risk capital is now willing to put it. If I'm risk off, which, things like an Iran war, sort of is going to happen, then of course, I go off risk, which is not just in the stock market, it's also in tokens. And that's what we see basically with alts.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.